3 huge condors were circling the site, flying over the horns of the fortress in a perfect formation. I don't know much about omens, but I tend to think that this was a very good one indeed. The Trinity is a very important part of Andean cosmogony. Sergey and I started exploring the area looking for a place to set up camp, but not really having any success. After about an hour, the teenager who I met earlier and now with his father had arrived. We asked them and they pointed us in the direction of the guard's house and told us that there were places to camp over there. I offered them coca again, and this time the father was very grateful. He was almost of a completely different skin tone than I had seen before. He was very dark from being exposed to the elements and hot sun at this extreme altitude. I wanted to sit and talk with him for hours and hear his stories, but Sergey and I needed to set up shop. We met with the cuidantes, or the watchmen, and they showed us where we could set up our tent. Once we got situated, we headed back to the site to explore. The first thing you discover is the huge staircase that leads you up into the site. The view off to your right into the valley and below on the canyon walls is one that I will remember for the rest of my days. After climbing the extensive staircase, you arrive in the upper sector, where we can find ceremonial rooms and niches, as well as other anomalies of stone and rock that have been combined in a beautiful harmony of architecture. Sergey and I wandered around for a few hours, exploring all of the various parts of this enigma, including the sacrificial site of Una Waka. Here there is a small spit that continues out over into the abyss where there is a sacrificial stone on an island in the sky that is only about 5 foot by 5 foot and has 100-foot drops off all sides. It's a real sketch location, but the amount of energy that you feel while standing there, looking out into the vast space of the canyon, is an outer body experience. After an unbelievable day and nearly being on the verge of exhaustion, we crawled back down to the guard's house and managed to get into our tent. It was a day we will remember for the rest of our lives. The next morning, Sergey and I awoke to the most amazing display of clouds and mist rising up from the valley floor below, surrounding the archaeological site and our camp. The walls of the canyon were disappearing and reappearing as a sort of optical illusion that I had never seen before. When the guards came out, I talked to one of them, Roberto. I offered him 50 soles to take us to Ayapukara, a tomb type of cavern that I had heard about from other teachers who I had been working with in Cusco. He was more than happy to take us, and after we had breakfast, the 3 of us took off on the trail for the community of Waiki. But instead of taking the normal route to Waiki, we dropped straight down from the site on a much less frequented trail, the Desavio of Tupac Amaru II. Tupac used this secret trail as his own shortcut to and from Sangarara, Waqrapukara, and other important sites in the region. The trail itself can take you all the way to Keswachaka rope bridge, many, many kilometers away. Roberto had a slingshot like Bart Simpson, and when we came around one of these huge canyon walls, there were 2 big bulls right in front of the trail. Roberto raised his slingshot and shot one of them right in the ass with a small stone he had in his pocket. The massive bulls took off without any further encouragement. It scared me and Sergey half to death, knowing these massive wild bulls were out here just waiting for us to come around the corner and gore us. Luckily, we didn't see any others, and we continued down this scenic hiking trail. The views off in the distance were absolutely stunning. Roberto was explaining other legends of the area and how some of the stones are believed to be the spirits of people or gods who lived in the area. He showed us one that appears to be a couple kissing. He also showed us where the part of the canyon where the condors live, and on cue, one came right out from the spot that he was pointing to. Finally, after another 2 hours of hiking, we arrived at the site of Ayapukara. Aya means death in Quechua, and Pukara again means fortress. So this place roughly translates to Death Fortress. It is more of a funerary tomb or cemetery. There is an adobe building that is built right into the side of a small overhang. There is a tiny window that you can look in, And when you look inside, you can see tens of skulls of varying sizes, and hundreds, if not thousands, of bones. Ceramics and pieces of pottery shards are littered all throughout the site. We sat there admiring the sacredness of this magnificent place, and I asked Roberto a few questions. He told us that this place was built even before the Inca times and that it was used for sacrifices. But over the years, it was more transformed into a funerary tomb for the nobles or for royalty. He admitted that the stories over time have been lost, and nobody really knows for sure. We performed a small ceremony there with the coca, and we continued down the trail. Roberto pointed out to us another huge site with just a few hundred meters away. But Sergey and I were already exhausted at this point, and we were content with just rolling ourselves down the trail the rest of the way until our arrival in the farming community of Waiki. Roberto pointed us in the direction where we needed to go, and we offered him a few more handfuls of coca and yipta. We were extremely grateful for him showing us the magnificent site of Ayapukara, and I'm sure we wouldn't have made it there without his help. We continued down a steep system of ancient terraces before finally making it to a sketchy cliff ledge where we could see the farming community of Waiki below us. We finally arrived in the beautiful town only to find it completely abandoned. We entered a small tienda and finally found someone. We ordered about 6 beers apiece, and we sat down and started talking to the man and his wife. We were boozing pretty heavily as we were exhausted, and the beer tasted so good after the long hike. We offered the owner and his wife one, and they offered to give us a ride to Acomayo, where they were having a huge festival that day. I was now thoroughly feeling great about life and having the best time ever. We arrived in Acomayo, where we continued to get hammered and eat guinea pigs and watch the battle of the bands that was coming from the different communities. It was an unbelievable experience, and the people were so hospitable and kind to us. We were the only foreigners at this festival of a few thousand people. And when we couldn't eat another rodent nor drink another alcoholic beverage, we hitched a ride back to Cusco. This had been an excursion that Sergey and I would take with us for the rest of our lives. Well, that's about all I got for you guys today. I hope you really enjoyed this podcast. I'll post directions and things like that on the Ancient Andes Facebook page. So if you're looking to go to Waqrapukara yourself, you can check it out. I'm also hoping to have my own tour guide company eventually. That's the plan in the next couple of years. Still here in Colorado dealing with some medical stuff, but hoping to have this resolved by the middle of next year, and I'll be back at it again in Peru, and other ancient mysteries and places in South America will be right at my fingertips. So very excited for that. If you're enjoying these podcasts, please support us, follow us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from. I really enjoy spending this time with you guys, and I'm very grateful for your time and support. So thank you. I hope you all enjoyed the podcast, and we will talk to you next week. This has been a Jesse Wolf production. Ow!